What is up, everyone? I hope you guys are doing well. As most of you are aware, this coming Saturday is the first fight card the UFC will be hosting in 2025. I'm sure a lot of you have been dying to see more fights, so you will be excited, but there seems to be a clear problem with the main event. Throughout this video, I'm going to be explaining why Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas 2, headlining the first fight card of 2025, is simply unacceptable. And I'm also going to be explaining all the options the UFC could have taken instead of promoting this sham of a fight. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's jump right into the video. The first thing to note is that this fight is a rematch, and their first fight took place at UFC 161, which was back in 2013. How did their first fight turn out, you ask? There are two videos here you can watch because YouTube is not allowing me to leave links in the description unless I give up my identification. After watching this fight, the only question I need to ask myself is why is the UFC bothering to headline this for the first event of 2025? There's no way the UFC matchmakers watched their first fight and went, we need to use this as a headliner in the near future. Neither woman landed damaging punches, and if the fight took place on the ground, you know neither of them were really gonna do much of anything. I understand that Mackenzie Dern is much improved, and it showed in her fight against Lupi Gonines, but look at what happened the last time Amanda Ribas headlined an Apex main event. These are the comments in the post-fight interview between Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas. Glad she finally got a W, but man, she's not looking the same she's not with Trevor. Pat needs to put his ego aside and let Trevor do his thing. They sparred all right. Let me see here. What a terrible fight night. The UFC saw these comments and went, we need to use Amanda Ribas to headline more cards in the future. And I know these comments are generally about Rose, but keep in mind, Rose won that fight. So what does that say about Amanda Ribas? And now for Mackenzie Dern, on the other hand, I don't mind her being on the main event as much, and not because she has a fat ass. It's going to be very hard to believe this, but I actually watched Mackenzie Dern fight for the fight itself. She's aggressive and she's trying to improve her skills. I appreciate Mackenzie Dern for at least trying to finish her opponents and trying to improve her skills. I don't need to watch Mackenzie Dern fight for 5 rounds straight. There are unranked fighters on this card alone that I would much rather see fight 5 rounds, like Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov, because this is going to be a banger of a fight. It's like Dana White expects people to care for Dern versus Ribas over Curtis versus Kopylov. The only people watching Apex events are the people who religiously follow this sport. And let me tell you this, everyone watching the fights, not for gooning reasons, would rather have Curtis and Kopylov headline the card over Dern and Ribas. Hell, if you really wanted to have people tune into the first event of 2025, you could have had Johnny Walker versus Bogdan Gushkov or Grant Dawson versus Carlos Diego Ferreira on this week's card instead of putting them on a UFC 311. And last but not least, I want to quickly mention how the UFC does zero promotional work for either of these women. This event is a week away, and the UFC have made zero posts on Instagram for this fight. The UFC know that the fight is going to be terrible between Dern and Ribas. They don't do anything to try to get people to at least get somewhat hyped for the fight. So why is this headlining the first event of 2025? The only fighters the UFC bothered to promote are Dagestanis, people who talk a lot of shit on the mic, criminals like John Jones, Mexicans, or the French. Certainly not for skill and entertainment. Otherwise, they would have put any other fight except for Dern versus Ribas to headline this card. If there are 3 fights on this card alone I care more to watch than Dern versus Ribas. And the UFC know this, hence why they don't even bother to try to promote this fight. It's unacceptable because the UFC is predicting this is going to be a terrible product and are still willing to put this out as the first main event of 2025. Anyways, that will be it for me today. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.